Good afternoon and welcome to the OmniDog and OmniCat comic book review show. You just saw OmniCat with her Flurkin, the official mascot of this show, the Flurkin.
The best Flurkin.
The only Flurkin I know.
I know.
The only Flurkin I know. But yes, we are OmniDog and OmniCat, and we are here to review books and tell you what you should read and maybe what you should not read. But we try to do our best to stay positive and say positive things about things because we want you to read comic books and enjoy them, because that's what they're there for. They're there for you to enjoy them. And if we run into a book that we occasionally don't care for, we'll pass that along to you in the nicest way possible.
Or sometimes, when it's Batman Damned, maybe not the nicest way possible.
Oh, yeah, I did pour root beer and Deadly Genesis on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's, I know. I've turned over a new leaf. I'm not root beering. Books have to be really egregious for me to root beer anymore.
Wow. Things have changed.
Yeah. I was made to see possibly the error of my ways by some people on Instagram, and there are still going to be books that don't deserve to be read, but there's going to have to be like misogyny in it. And here's one thing I hate about that'll get root beer from me is a book like Hit Girl 2 or what was the name of that? One of the first books I ever root beered, Savage Highway. Anything that uses rape as a way to progress the story forward is going to get root beer from me. That's just a hard and fast rule. I don't see any reason to include that in a comic book. So that's probably the only thing I'm going to root beer from now on.
Sadly, that's still too many books, isn't it?
Well, you're probably right. Yeah.
Happening to this day. It's so crazy.
Yeah. Any mistreatment of women in a stupid misogynist type way will probably get it from me, because all writers have bad efforts sometimes, and I'm still not convinced that it was Azzarello's fault that Batman Damned turned out that way. I think that was an editorial sticking its hand in and mucking it all up, and Azzarello probably should have taken his name off the book.
I think with the big two sometimes too, it's like hard to really put blame in anything but the behind the scenes team, you know?
Yeah, I think that's what Cullen Bunn and Jeff Lemire both were said about their run on X-Men, was they got interfered with so much, it just wasn't fun for them anymore.
Yeah, that sucks.
Well, actually, here's somebody with a different opinion. Root beer whatever you want. Okay.
If Mary says it, you gotta go with it.
Yeah, exactly. So we read some books, and I read books on Hoopla.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I started that yesterday. I have four more books. I get 7 a month, but I don't think it's a calendar month. It seems to be a month when you first start it.
It's a calendar month.
Oh, it's a calendar month?
Yeah, so like,
okay.
But once you get a checkout, you get that time. So sometimes if you're like me, you wait until the last day of the month, and then you do your checkouts and then go into the next month.
Oh, that's how you work it. Okay.
Yeah, so then like on January 1st, your checkouts will come back. And if you check things out from the previous month, they're still there for that certain amount of time.
Here's a question from Jake of Time, Everything Nerdy. How bad does a book have to be for you to root beer float it? Well, I don't use ice cream. I just use the worst root beer I can possibly find, which is usually Barks, which I hate, or Diet A&W.
Because adding ice cream would be a super waste.
What's that? Yeah.
Adding ice cream would just be a total waste.
Totally, yeah. It's a book that just utterly frustrates me. It's just got to be really poorly written, not have a coherent plot. It could be mean-spirited. I poured root beer on a book that's a book of the decade for Comics Beat. Comics Beat is a newsletter I subscribe to that's really good.
Good.
And they picked a book as a book of the decade that I poured root beer on, and Omar loves. That's Beautiful Creatures. I hated that book. I thought it was so mean-spirited and just so awful. I stopped in the middle of it. I said, this thing, I can't take it anymore. It is so mean-spirited and so abusive that I ended up pouring root beer on it. And it's on books of the decade for the Beat, and Omar loved it. So, you know, personal taste.
Yeah. Opinions, man.
Yeah, opinions. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's just got to be a really poorly written book or have a mindset towards either cruelty or misogyny or something that's just really offensive to me to root beer it. It's something that I feel is a warning shot to people. Like, this book is so bad, you don't even want to read it.
Like, how is this printed?
Kevin Smith's Batman books deserve the root beer they got. Kevin Smith may be a great guy. He wrote something good in Detective 1000, but those books were awful. And I'll put that on my tombstone that those books were awful because those got root beered. They were just poorly written and stupidly thought of.
Have you seen Tusk?
Tusk?
Yeah. The Kevin Smith movie.
What's that?
The Kevin Smith movie?
No, Tusk?
Where Justin Long is turned into a walrus.
Is it a cartoon?
It's a horror movie.
What?
Oh man, look it up later.
Tusk?
It's crazy. Tusk, like tusks.
That is weird. Here's something fun I can do. Let's see. There, how about that?
Oh, cute.
I just did that.
Beautiful.
Now let's see what happens if I take a question where it goes. Oh, it covers it up.
That still looks
If
good.
only you could root beer the sad excuse for a bookbinding company hired by DC. That is a good point.
I have a...
Where'd the banner go? Why'd that leave?
I don't know. There it goes.
Okay. I also have a ticker, but I don't know how I'd use it. I use it for other shows when we spoil.
You have a ticker?
Yeah, there it is. Spoiler.
Oh, that's a crawl.
Scroll. Okay.
That's
What?
a crawl.
Ticker, scroll. When you think I have a ticker tape machine in my
Hey,
office?
I work at a TV station. I deal with crawls and tickers all the time. That's
Okay,
crawl.
this is a
Because it's
crawl.
crawling at the bottom. That's why it's
Right.
called.
Okay,
Yeah.
crawl. But they call it
Ticker's stuck.
Oh, okay. They call it ticker here.
Oh, they're wrong.
Yeah, there's no spoilers, so I can hide it. Okay.
That's good use, though.
Yeah. So why don't we get started on our reviews?
Let's do it.
Because we missed, like, we haven't seen each other in like a month, right? You were
I think,
sick, and then you had Christmas stuff to do.
It was like 2 weeks ago, I think. Or 3 weeks. I think
3
it was like
weeks
3
ago?
weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I had Christmas stuff. It was supposed to be last weekend. That's what it was. And
That's
then
what it was.
I had Christmas stuff. So, hey, I'll start out
Okay.
with my total joy. Like I said, or like I told you before we started, I read a good amount, but I didn't like a lot of it. So I think I'm going to go with my positives first. Let's keep it light.
Okay.
And if we really want to rant about things, we'll do it at the end. But this was probably my favorite thing of the bunch that I've read. So I'm going to start here. This is Our Super Adventure by Sarah Grayley and her boyfriend, Steph. Okay, so this is a cute little box set that you can get them in. OniPress just came out with these. It's got like a shiny cover. And they're little books, very quick reads. But they're little travel logs about, this is Our Super Canadian Adventure. If you go to oursuperadventure.com, you can probably read, I think you can read everything online. It's an online comic. But it's literally just cataloging their adventures. They're British, so this is when they went to Canada a few years ago. They're so funny. Yeah, so if you like nonfiction, little funny cartoons about people's real lives, that's really what this is. And they're so fun. She writes so well. I love her cartooning. And it's just a really good time. So this one was about Canada, and you got to see like British people experiencing Canada. And also in the box set is our super American venture. So, we know all about America, but they experienced American things. And that's what this is about. But it's so fun. Again, if you want just a little taste, you can go to oursuperadventure.com and read some of them on there. You can see if you like it. But I really love it. I've found it very fun. I think they went to San Diego Comic-Con in this. So you get
cool.
to see, like their first time in San Diego. And it's just really fun. It's funny. It was such a joy. Like I said, out of everything I read, especially after reading so much that I didn't like, I was like, wow, this is just like a breath of fresh air. And these are really nice little books. And again, this little box set.
And where'd you get that box set?
Well, I kickstarted this, but OniPress just came out with it. So it is out now, and you can get it.
Okay.
You can get it on IST. So use that OmniBros discount and get this.
That's right.
So,
That's right. I
love this.
Should tell the chat, if you're in the United States, well, actually, you can use it wherever you want. There's a 3% OmniBros discount code going on now until Tuesday, the end of Tuesday night. Year-end sale, I think, is the code. It's a 3% sale, and year-end sale is the code. Yeah, year-end sale is the code for 3% at IST. Freddie Alonso, this is funny. You become the most technical of the bros. I remember when you couldn't find F5. You've had quite the evolution this year, leveled up.
Nice.
Well, on a Mac laptop, those F buttons don't really show up unless you like really hardcore go looking for them. And then even then they're touch buttons. They're not, the keyboard doesn't really have them. And so I'm like,
I mean, unless you have my Mac laptop, which totally has them. But it's pretty old. So.
Mine doesn't. So they're like virtual buttons. Yeah. Okay, let's see. What should I start with? I'll start with a book that I started in paperback and finished on Hoopla. So let me pull it up on Hoopla. Well,
Isn't it such a nice resource?
Holy smoke. I mean, yeah, I'm going to talk about Coda volumes 2 and 3. And of course, I couldn't find volume 1. So I just checked it out on Hoopla. And I'm like, that was nicer than buying it.
And once, it's the beginning of the year again, so the releases are going to be smaller toward the beginning of January. But once you realize, the moment a DC book comes out, you can get it on Hoopla. I mean, it's crazy. It's like, I don't buy DC anymore. I did get the Animal Man Omnibus because Jeff Lemire. But
yeah,
I don't have a lot of DC books because I just read them all on Hoopla. It's amazing.
Right. So let me start out with, this is by John Layman, who I believe is the writer of Chew.
That's right.
And this is called Outer Darkness. This is a book. The first book was sent to me by my buddy Kyle. It is crazy inventive. Basically the whole entire known universe is haunted and possessed by demons. So every ship has to have exorcists and mathematicians to cast spells, and demonic possessions and hauntings occur on ships. And you have to, the ship can get possessed, the ship can be sentient. Wherever you go, you run into all kinds of haunted phenomena that you've got to deal with. So it's like the whole the ship that he ends up he's trying to find his ex-wife in the outer reaches of the galaxy, and his name is Captain Joshua Rigg, and everybody hates him, but he's given one last chance to go on a rescue mission to the outer edges of the galaxy and on a side quest, he wants to find his wife. There's talk of mutiny on board. There's talk of, you got to it's actually a god-powered ship, a Sumerian god, and they have to feed it convicts and criminals, like live people, to feed the god that's powering the ship. And it's so inventive and so interesting. I really loved this book, and the only disappointment, of course, is that I read volumes 1 and 2, and it's continued, so it's an ongoing series. But like the first mate on the ship used to be a god on some planet, and now he's been reduced to navigator, actually, now that I think about it. They're constantly running into, let's see if I can get a picture of them running into some kind of trouble where they have to call on their exorcists and things. And then they have mathematicians that, as I said, that write up spells. And I just found Outer Darkness to be a blast, an absolute blast. I read volume 2 on Hoopla. Let me get the 2 Hoopla. Hoopla. There it is. Okay, read. So here's what book 2 looks like. What's that say? Castraphony of Hate. I didn't even know that was a word, but John Layman really does a great job in this book. There's even a haunted house with a nun in it still that went in to exorcise it back in the 1800s, and she's in there, and they discover it. It's out in the middle of the universe somewhere, and they rescue her from there, but it's a possessed house, and they got to get rid of it, or it's in their way. So I love this book, and I can't wait for volume 3. There's all kinds of creepy crawlies. There's all kinds of evil and backstabbing. Demons. They all live in this book because basically the universe is haunted. And I loved Outer Darkness.
I've really been wanting to read that on Hoopla, so I'm going to have to do that.
I think you should, and I think you'll dig it.
Yeah, I think I'll read anything he does after Chew. I mean, I love Chew.
Yeah.
All right, so speaking of things Jess loves, I read a book that you've read that I didn't know about until you talked about it.
Oh.
So maybe you can help me explain this one.
Uh-oh.
But that's Doomboy.
Oh, Doomboy. Doomboy rocks.
Doomboy literally rocks. This is actually a Christmas present that I gave to Reed, and then I promptly took when he was done and read it myself. Is it really a Christmas present if I also wanted to read it? Look at this gorgeous cover. I mean, if anybody doesn't know about this book, like, beautiful, beautiful art. That was the first thing I loved about it. It's one of those great, like, wide hardcovers that's going to be hard to show. But yeah, Doomboy, he's a guy who loves to rock. He's got the long hair and plays guitar. But, you know, I get the impression toward the beginning, he's not that great. But he enjoys it, so he wants to do it. Eventually, there's so much that I don't want to spoil in this, but I think I have to say that, you know, he has a really active imagination, and one day his... I want to say girlfriend or ex-girlfriend. I don't know if that was made clear or I just lost that part. But she dies, which is terrible and tragic, and it really kind of changes his life, as such things do. And he decides that, you know... Oh, and then there's a literal hole in his chest because of that. And he decides that he wants her to forgive him for something he did, but she's gone, so he doesn't know, you know, how he can do that other than play her music and these songs that he wrote for her. So he starts doing these sessions kind of in the middle of nowhere, and there's this friend, and he's about to perform.
Yeah.
And all of these crazy, like, I mean, there's the girl in like all of these, I mean, it's just beautiful, beautiful art, crazy, imaginative, like things that I don't think I've ever seen in anything else. It was so unique, really uniquely done. But he starts performing these songs, and they're accidentally broadcast on radio. So people start hearing him, and they don't know who he is, but they call him Doomboy. And he gets really famous through that. And that's kind of the short version of the story. There's a lot more to it than that, but
Yeah.
I really loved it. I thought the art was amazing. I really enjoyed it. Again, it was very unique. And if you can find this, probably need to look it up, because I had to get this through a third-party seller on Amazon.
Oh, really?
Let me look it up right now, which makes me think it's out of print, but not hard to find.
Was that a magnetic press book?
I believe that's right. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So let me check Amazon again. I know you can't get it on IST. Yeah, you can get it third-party Amazon, no issue. It looks like there's one available via Prime, fulfilled by Amazon. So there's one left. You guys want to go run and grab it. It is worth the cover price, which isn't a lot, $25. It's on Amazon for $22 right now. You could get it third-party used for real cheap. So it looks like it's out of print, but it's easy to get. So if this is something you're looking into, it could eventually get badly out of print. I don't know. I've been looking at it since you talked about it, which I feel like was a while back.
I think so too, yeah.
So yeah, maybe it'll never get grossly out of print, but if it's something you're into, you may want to pick it up.
I'm so pleased that you like that book. That makes me feel good.
And Reed loved it. Like, it was like the best present for him.
Oh, good.
Right up his alley.
Yeah, sure, about music and stuff.
Yeah. So if you guys didn't remember Jess's review, Jess loved it. I loved it. It has our stamp of approval. You should check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. My next book is kind of a collection of things that I didn't have. A true fan may have already collected all these things in the various forms. And I just got lucky in that they collected them all in one volume. That is Black Hammer Streets of Spiral. This includes Black Hammer Giant Sized Annual, Black Hammer Cthulhuese, which is hilarious and great, World of Black Hammer Encyclopedia, and material from Free Comic Book Day 2019, all of which I had never read. Even though I have the local comic store day issue, I still haven't read those issues, which is ridiculous because that was back in June or something, wasn't it? And now we're here into December. But what I liked about this was the first story was the giant-sized annual, and it involved all the superheroes from Black Hammer's universe, the ones that are stuck on Earth, involved with some face-hugger alien type thing that bothered them all at various points in their life. And so it was one giant continuous story that I thought was really good. And it had lots of interesting art. It dealt with every part in it was a character arc. Like the first one was Abe Slam, and this one is Barbalian, Mark Marks. And the other one was what the heck, that little girl's name is Golden Gale. She has an arc in it. And so there's a wide variety of artwork in this annual, and it's really great. The annual's great, which I enjoyed a lot. Mike Allred did some of it, which is, of course, I love Mike Allred. Then there's Cthulhuese, which is a great thing just based on the idea of the name. Her dad's Cthulhu, and she's Cthulhuese. And I like this story because it dealt with, she looks like this, and she has to go to school dealing with herself like this. And it's how she deals with living in the world like this. And her grandfather is calling her from down in the sewers saying, "Cthulhuese, come to me, child." And she's trying not to answer him because she thinks that her grandfather might be evil. But she gets bullied at school and everything. And it's a twist on a Twilight Zone episode. And I thought it was really good. And then here's something I would never spend real money on. Although it was cool, I liked it a lot, and this is the encyclopedia that's in it. I really liked reading up on all these characters. I would have never spent my own money on like a single issue based on something like this. So I'm glad it's included in this. This goes on for quite a while, and it goes on for a long time. It talks about it. What it really does is it sets up the whole universe that Jeff Lemire's got plotted out. This is not going to be a small undertaking based on what's in these, based on what's in this encyclopedia. He is just getting started. He is going to make a huge world full of these characters, and I don't know if he's going to write it all himself. So far, he seems to have, but Sherlock Frankenstein has come out, and the first issue of Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy just came out. So he's pumping out the content, and I mean, I think that he's creating a completely huge world, and that's exciting to me because I love his stuff. And then the last story, let's see, was Madame Dragonfly telling a story and then getting interrupted by Jack Sabbath, who's one of the she's telling a story and she gets interrupted by this guy, and he's on a version of the Teen Titans in Black Hammer universe, and I'm guessing that we're going to see that pretty soon. But yeah, Streets of Spiral, collection of things that are out there, and excellent book, and it really gives you an idea of what Jeff Lemire is all about. He's got huge plans for this universe. This is going to go on for years, and it's really great because it's also interesting to me. I think it's interesting.
I do too. I've loved every spinoff, every little thing that's come out from this universe. It's crazy good. So if y'all are sleeping on Black Hammer,
oh my
wake
God.
up, get into it before it is like years long. So right now it's very accessible. There's not that much out.
And it's so good.
It's so good.
Some of those spin-offs may be on my best of list. My best of list is probably up to like 20 books right now because I'm not going to be able to do a top 10. I read a lot of good books this year, and I'm not going to limit it to 10.
Mine was hard. I had to put it in like different categories and then make it top 10. Yeah. That may help you.
I may not even do a countdown. I may just say, here are my books. These are my best books, and just do 20 books.
It's probably the easy way to do it.
Yeah.
So here's another book you need to read because I think you're really going to enjoy it.
Okay. And
that is Two Dead by Van Jensen with art by Nate Powell. I picked it up because I love Nate Powell. This is a nice chunker too. This is one of those things where I'm like, how do I describe this book? So I'm going to read the back like Jess. After World War II, tensions rise in a southern city ruled by organized crime, touching countless residents as they struggle to make sense of a new world. A sudden act of violence sets off a series of bloody events between the police and mafia as they lash out against each other. As the violence worsens, desperation grows to stop it by any means necessary. So
that sounds good to me.
It's great. It's such a good like crime thriller. So let's see, it starts out in 1944. They kind of go back to the war. All the flashbacks are in this like white, lightly kind of sepia colored tones, which is really cool. The current universe is like darker with kind of sepia. I just love the way it was done. And Nate Powell's art is incredible in everything he does. And this is really like, there's a lot of race issues and things that Nate Powell's already kind of put his foot in with March and that other book I really love that I can't think of the name of that he did the art for. But there's tons of that. There's a really corrupt police chief. This main guy who comes in as like a detective right off the war. He did something really terrible in the war and he's like trying to forget it, but get his life back on track and serve people in the police force and do good. because he did something so terrible, and he's ultimately a good person, even though he made a big mistake. So there's this corrupt police chief, and he's trying to make sure that like he's basically killing a lot of people and getting away with it. Like,
Oh my.
yeah, he's crazy. He's really off his rocker, and it's a lot. And so it's hard to kind of read in a lot of sense. This is set back in the day, and back when like stuff like this kind of was easily swept under the rug, I'm sure, more easily than it is now, where we have cameras all the time, you know. Even though, again, you can also say that a lot of this is still happening, and, you know, you can bring it around to our current world as well as how things were back then. Yeah, there's a lot of change, there's a lot of good change, but still so much of it we deal with now. And that was also an amazing thing that they told throughout this without even like saying that, you know. It was just really well done, and the ending was worth the whole journey, because I kept thinking, how are they gonna, like, what are they gonna do here? But it's great. It's really great. I think you'll really enjoy it. I know you like crime stuff, and it was a great thriller, really well done. And if you guys haven't heard of this one, go check it out.
What's it called again?
2 Dead.
And who's the publisher?
Gallery 13.
I never heard of them.
They did the Frog Catchers by Jeff Lemire.
Oh, okay.
It's a Simon & Schuster imprint.
Okay.
So you should be able to get this on IST. I'll look. But yeah, it's totally up your alley, I think. Let's see. 2 Dead.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Here's a question that we should answer. OmniDog and OmniCat, I just recently dipped my hands in the omnibus collecting. Do you have any suggestions on which Marvel or DC omnibus I should definitely pick up? Unfortunately, my first 2 choices for DC and Marvel are both out of print.
I was just thinking that.
I was going to say Animal Man by Grant Morrison and Silver Surfer by Mike Slott Dan Slott and Mike Allred. So I'm going to have to come up with something else. I will say this, if you can find Silver Surfer by Dan Slott omnibus for close to its $75 price, you should get it. And if you can find Animal Man by Grant Morrison, I don't know, maybe that's not a good choice for a first-time reader. That's kind of out there. It's awesome, but it's also kind of out there. Maybe Batman by Snyder and Capullo would be a good DC omnibus to pick up.
Yeah, for DC, I was thinking Super Sons, which I loved. It's very fun, very accessible to new readers, but I think that's out of print now, too.
I think it's out of print, but I don't think these are badly out of print. I think they're lightly out of print, so you might be able to get your hands on them.
But yeah, if you don't mind paying cover, I think you can probably get them for cover. Marvel, I want to say you should pick up the Astonishing X-Men reprint that's coming out in 2020.
Yeah, and same with Uncanny X-Force.
Yeah, like...
But Astonishing X-Men, I think, is more accessible than Uncanny X-Force.
Super accessible. You don't have to know anything about X-Men. You can just jump in, and you'll have a good time. It also won't be like a crazy big Omni, so you won't feel overwhelmed. Yeah,
that's a good choice. It's a really good choice. So yeah, those are, if you feel like The Collector in there just said Gotham Central, that's a good book. That's a huge book, but they sure are great crime stories. What else have we got going? Grayson's good, but I don't know that first you want to get exposed to Batman, I think, before you go into Grayson. Yeah, I think those are good options. Oracle, if you have any other questions, ask Oracle. Yeah, Ms. Marvel's also good to The Collector, and it also happens to be in print, which is nice. So that's good. Okay, 2 Dead. I like the sound of that. Let's see, what should I talk about next? I will talk about Middlewest.
Oh, it's so good.
Yes, this it gets even better. I read, as usual, I have to read the first one and then read the second one because I've already forgotten what happened in the first one. But Abel is a little kid. First of all, it's got fabulous art. It's written by Scotty Young with great art by Jorge Corona. Abel is a kid who runs away from home because his father is too scary, has a major temper, and like turns into a tornado, like a real tornado. And so Abel bounces around before he hooks up with a circus. And in book 2, it turns out that Abel has some of the same powers that his father does. And it is a little disconcerting to Abel, so he runs away. And the whole story is based on, the second book anyway, based on what happens when he runs away and his adventures as he runs away from the circus that had protected him for so long. But now it turns out he has wind monster powers, and he gets introduced to his grandfather, and he's got a little fox friend that guides him in life, who is a great character. I can't say enough about this book because you've got stellar art by Corona, and then Scotty Young's writing it. And just like Chip Zdarsky, Scotty Young has made the transition from really good artist to really good writer. And it's pretty, actually, I won't go any further than this because this is where he meets his grandfather, who has bestowed, to his father and to him the powers of Mother Nature. I don't want to go any further than that because that'll ruin it. But there's all kinds of adventures in this book, well written, beautifully drawn. Highly recommend Middlewest volumes 1 and 2. It's on Image, so it's on Hoopla. But I didn't have Hoopla when I bought Middlewest volume 2. So now you can bet that I'm going to try and get everything on Hoopla.
I'm hoping that one gets like a really nice hardcover. Because the cover's already gorgeous. That art is amazing.
Yeah.
It would look really nice. But yeah, I'm reading that on Hoopla.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's great. So it's all downhill from here.
Uh-oh.
I picked this up for really cheap. I guess, I don't know if you ever do this, but I like getting bargains.
Oh, yeah.
And this was on my radar, but I didn't know much about it. I love going into stuff blind, but this really bit me in the butt. All right. I don't know if you've read Tales from the Darkside.
Oh, I have this crappy book.
Have you read it?
Yeah, I read it last year for Halloween.
Did you hate it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I was like, Joe Hill, what are you doing here? I love Joe Hill. I mean, Lock and Key is one of my favorite things.
Me too. So I was like, oh, it's the team from Lock and Key. I'm in. I don't care what it's about. I'm so in. Guys, okay, so it's very Twilight Zone-y, and that's really all I'm going to say about the plot because there's no other plot. Unfortunately, if I would have read the back of this or looked into it at all, again, I thought I could blind go into the creative team from Lock and Key. Apparently, these are episodes of a failed TV series, something that never made it to TV, and they're adaptations of the scripts they wrote.
Right.
Which is why things happen and you get really into it and then nothing happens.
Yeah. Drops you off a cliff.
It's just 3 random episodes, so there's no ending. I was enjoying it until I realized, oh, this isn't going to end. And it didn't end. And I was like, wow, that was nothing. So then I hated it. So it's one of those things. If there was actually an ending, if they really continued this, I don't know why they did this. Let's just adapt some random episodes and get people into it, but then nothing. So they probably did it because people like me were like, hey, Lock and Key team, let's do this. And then regret it forever. So I'm getting rid of this book. Forget it. I'm so over it. So don't get this unless you feel like reading some stories that you're probably going to enjoy, but then you're going to hate because you'll never get an ending. You'll never get any explanation for any of it.
No, it's weird.
No, don't do it. Don't do it, guys. Do not get this. I don't know why this is made. Other than it just a cash grab because they grabbed my cash.
That's probably right.
And then I got mad about it.
Yeah, me too. Taylor Brown's upset because he's been replaced on this Saturday afternoon. I played both you guys' shows today.
Yeah.
I'm doing this live, and Taylor said it recorded.
There's room for all the shows on Jess's channel.
That's right. That's right. I feel like I'm doing shows all the time. Let's see. What do I have next? I have one book I'm going to save for last to talk about. Wait, where'd it go? Oh, okay. Because it's going to be in my top 2 books of the year, and I want to make sure everybody jumps on it. Oh, what the hell. I'll just talk about it now. And that is These Savage Shores. I don't think I've talked about it on this show. I cannot stress. It's by Vault Comics. This is going to be in my top 2 of the year. I don't know if it's 1 or 2. It's vying with Castle in the Stars for top book. But this book is incredible. It's about, now it is a fantasy element, science fiction-y fantasy, about a vampire who gets banished from England and sent to what appears to be India in the colonial times. And he thinks he's going to have his way with the population until he meets a beast of far greater strength, which brings over the Council of Vampires from England to investigate his death. And it deals with colonialism and what it does to a population of natives of the area. This is set in the 1800s. Everything's by ship. The artwork is fantastic. The main protagonist is very interesting as a man that can turn into a beast and is the woman he loves. And I cannot say enough about this because it does deal with colonialism, tribal warfare, and but it still has its fantasy elements, and so it's a very enjoyable read. There are all kinds of story arcs within this one big book. Let's see. No, I can't read it from the back because I've already described what's on the back. But it deals with if there were ancient creatures living in India and England, what would happen if they met? What would happen if the white men that were colonizing all the trade routes and stuff, how they would handle it? How the Vampire Council that comes over for England, how they would handle it, what would happen when they discovered this ancient beast that's even stronger than they are. And the ancient beast has a human form, and he works for one of the tribal elders. He's his protector. But the artwork is beautiful, and I'm going to write up something even more specific for when I do, so you can see some colonial soldiers, because I really can't sell this book enough. This is an excellent, excellent book. I loved it, and it's a one and done, but it's particularly from Vault Comics, an excellent entry into the field. So everybody needs to pick up These Savage Shores. And I mean it.
I've heard hype from so many people about this. I'm gonna have to buy that. I'm gonna get that this weekend.
I almost can guarantee you're gonna like it.
Fantastic.
I can almost guarantee it.
I think you'll be right.
I think this is right up your alley because it deals with history, with a good smattering of fantasy. It's well written. It's written by Ram V, and illustrated by Sumit Kumar. So it's very much a East Asian type of concept, and God, it's great. I can't wait to read it again in 3 months.
I'm definitely going to buy that this weekend.
Yeah, I think you'll be happy.
I'm sure I'll be happier than this book made me. That's my transition to the last one. I gave this 1 whole star out of 5. It doesn't deserve that star. That's just the lowest I could go on Goodreads. So this is called The Beautiful Death, which is a nice, very oversized hardcover. But it's called The Beautiful Death, and that's how I felt while I read it.
You were having a beautiful death.
A beautiful death. The first thing that here's the deal. I can get over bad art real easy. I just need a good story. But look at this guy's face. Like, whoever drew this, I won't bring names into this, guys. Titan Comics put it out, so whatever. But what is that? And they all look like that. So he can do buildings. Whoever did this can do buildings really nicely. But then the humans have these faces, and I just couldn't get over that. I kept staring at them like, how? What? What is that?
So weird looking.
That's the first thing I couldn't get over. And the second thing was just like, wow, I hate this story. So all the characters were horribly unlikable. This is like a post-apocalyptic situation. There's like these insectoid aliens from outer space who want to take over the Earth, and there are just like a few humans left in this area. And I don't even want to get into more of it other than it's a total waste of your time. I wasted my time with it. I just wanted to get it over with and make sure. I really hated it, I guess. Like, I don't know about you. I have to like finish a book typically.
Yeah.
There's not many books that I'll put down and be like, I really hated that. Because sometimes an ending can turn around the whole thing. Or not, right?
Sure.
So, just don't read this. I got this for very cheap, which I'm grateful for. You know what? You could read it. I just think it's a waste of your time. So you do whatever you want. But no. And it was horrifying, but not in a fun way, just a gross way. With these bug aliens and oh my gosh, like let me see if I can find a really horrific picture of what ends up happening to one of these guys who's like taken over by these bugs. I don't know. The concept I kind of liked, but then, I mean, look at this. What? No, that's a guy who's just taken over by all the. Yeah, the whole time I was like, what's happening? And I hate these characters. And why am I reading this? And now it's going to Second and Charles. So, The Beautiful Death. And again, I felt that way while I read it. Don't read this unless you want to have a bad time, and then you can read it. Have a bad time. That's your life, But it's just there's so many great books we've talked about. You don't need this in your life. That's all.
Yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to be doing the thumbnail today.
I mean, it's probably for the best.
Yeah, because I liked everything I read. My final book was I read all 3 volumes today of Coda by Cy Spurrier and art by Mateus Vergara. Coda is fantastic. It is done by Volume 3. It is a world in which magic has ceased to exist. There are still little bits and pieces of magic around, but magic got destroyed. And there are several different races of creatures in this unmagical land. There are giants. The main protagonist's name is Hum. He's a bard, and he's looking for a solution. He's got a creature for a wife. She's called an Urkin, and they're generally the violent guards of things in this world. She's very sweet, but then has like a bit of a berserker nature in her, and he's looking for a solution to stop the berserker in her so that she won't go off on berserker rampages for weeks at a time and then come back to him. Well, it doesn't occur to him that she might like it, and that's the lesson he learns, is that she likes her berserker rages. That's part of who she is, and he should not have tried to cure her, so to speak, without really consulting her. But that's one of about 3 stories that's going on in Coda. There's a mermaid with ulterior motives that the mermaid is kind of a pawn shop type person. She can get anything and do anything for you for the right price. There's a pawn shop person. There's a moving city on wheels that's powered by a giant pulling it, and they Hum and his wife, the Urkin, stay on that for a little while. And it goes they have lots of adventures. This book is full of adventures. They constantly go on adventures. If you are a fantasy fan at all, this is a great book because, first of all, Cy Spurrier writes fantastically. He's one of my favorite writers, and it's just a well-written fantasy with a lot of human element in it because of the diary that Hum keeps. Has lots and lots of very interesting and introspective philosophical thoughts that apply to us in real life. And I thought that was really an interesting way to go about it. He writes in his journal all the time, and they are very deep thoughts. They come across as just random thoughts, but they actually run fairly deep. And I just love Coda, and it's 3 volumes. It's available on Hoopla if you want. No, it's not. It's Boomstudios. It's an Eisner nominee.
Oh, it's on Hoopla.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's on Hoopla. Is Boom stuff on Hoopla?
Yes.
Oh, kill me. So I highly, since it's on Hoopla, or you can get it from IST, whatever you want to do, get Coda and read it. This is going to be one in my top 20 or however many books I do, because I loved Coda so much. It was so inventive and so interesting, and involved. There were so many story arcs, but they all came together. There wasn't a false note in anything. The main story kept going, even though it had tangents and quests and stuff. I thought it was really well done. Just really well done.
That's good to know there's only 3. That's been on my Hoopla list for a while, but I was kind of like, okay, I want to wait till this is done. Because I'm also like you. If I read one volume, I'm like, I don't remember what happened. I have to read that again later on.
Do that. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll have to move that up my list.
Yeah, I think you'd like it a lot. It's really good.
I like that art too.
Strong. I don't want to say feminist vibe, but there's a strong. There are a lot of strong women in this. A lot of strong women who don't necessarily. Well, there's just lots of strong women in this. I'm not going to try and explain them.
That's all I need.
Yeah. Do you have another book?
That's my 5.
Oh, that is your 5. Okay. Yeah. All right. Are there any questions in the chat for anyone? T2, I'm sorry you just got here because we're about ready to wrap it up. T2 is an excellent, that's the team from The Spire. You're correct, Freddie Alonso. The Spire was one of my books of the year back in like 2017. But yeah, The Spire was fantastic. There's Kenny Crayley. Hey, Kenny.
Hey, Kenny.
We can take another couple minutes and answer questions if you want, or we can just, sign off and go about our lives.
Yeah, if you guys have questions.
Yeah, if you have any questions. Okay, Kenny Crayley has a question. Boom. Which publishers, DC, Marvel, and indie comics publishers, do you think did the best job for comics in 2019?
I think this comes down to obviously opinions and preference for each one of us. I'm going to say first second because every first second book I read this year, I loved. Loved. So that's what I'm going to say. As far as doing a good job for comics, because first second does not do single issues, that's a different story, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. That's hard. That's hard to actually know without like sales figures, right? If that's what you mean, best job for comics.
I'm going to interpret that as putting out, doing comics a good service by putting out consistent and good quality products.
Well, then that's, for me, that's first second.
Okay.
100%.
I will say it is Marvel for me. They announce books. They stick to the schedule. They print books. I'm not going to go off on a DC ramble, but things from DC have gone from bad to worse. And Marvel is, whether they put out thin trade paperbacks or big Herkin collections like Silver Surfer, which I actually meant to read for today. I forgot about it. It's stuck down here in this Kalax. No matter what they put out, they announce it, and they'll announce anything, as Omar said. They got a power pack omnibus. Who cares about that? But by God, they're going to put something out, and they're not going to cancel it. So, Marvel has been my go-to reliable publisher for this year. I always like my indie books, that a lot of them that Kristen recommends. But as far as somebody I can count on that does a good thing for comics, I feel like it's Marvel. They put out a consistent product, and I read a lot of good Marvel this year. So
and it's like you said, at least you can trust that their solicitations typically stick around. It's pretty rare for them to cancel a solicitation.
Ever since I started paying attention, I've never seen them cancel anything.
Yeah, I don't think I have either.
I'm not going to say that they've never done it because I don't know, but yeah, DC. I don't want to talk about DC. Let me put up a compliment. Tim Klein with my picture as his avatar. Love these videos. Just wanted to pop on and say that before hitting the road again. We'll check it out on replay. Keep up the greatness. That is cool, Tim Klein. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
And Bruce is agreeing with me about Marvel, X-Men, Absolute Carnage, and Immortal Hulk. Immortal Hulk is really good.
Yeah.
I haven't read Absolute Carnage at all. And I haven't got my book of Hoxpox yet. So I had to buy it on Comixology. And it's not from IST, it's from a competitor of IST, and they are taking their sweet time sending me House of X.
I think I know what you're talking about. They take a while.
They do take a while. So I'm going to have to get, because I can't do a best of list without that book. That book is going to have to be on there. So I got it from Comixology on super cheap discount. So I think I'm going to try and read it tomorrow or Monday. I think my best of list will probably go up Tuesday. Okay, here's Kenny's answer. Marvel, Image, IDW, that's a good one, and Boomstudios were, in my opinion, the best publishers in 2019. Hopefully DC can get back on track in 2020. Yeah, that's a good point about IDW and Boom.
Boom has been great, although I'm still sad forever that the Giant Days hardcovers were canceled.
I know.
I need more people to like support Boom and their hardcovers, because when they come out, I think not enough people like care. So then, they're a business. I get it.
Yeah. Here, Mary has a question, and I know we are going to come up with two completely different answers.
Yeah.
Will you be setting reading goals and Goodreads for 2020? If so, what will be the goal?
My favorite thing to do right before the clock turn, we're when the clock turns, for the past probably 5 years, is to set my reading goal.
Is that right?
The moment I can, I am looking forward to it so much next week. It's a highlight.
So interesting.
It's a highlight. Because, like I've showed you, that's what helps me track throughout the whole year, is that reading goal. Because there's a dedicated page to it. And you could change your goal. I made a too big reading goal last year, so I dumbed it down a bit, being like, there's no way I can hit this. So I thought a lot about this. My goal for this year was 500, and I did not hit that. It was 500 because I thought I would read more single issues, and I didn't. So I'm still not sure. I'm still thinking about it, but I think I'm going to go with 400 this year.
400 books you want to read? 400
books. I got to I think I'm at 300 something right now, so it's not that crazy. Let me check. Check my challenge app real quick. 367.
Wow.
That's not that far off, so I think I'm going to go with 400.
And I don't like setting goals. I refuse to set goals. Actually, pretty much in life as well as comic books, I don't have any goals. I don't want a goal. I'm the exact opposite of Kristen. I don't want that pressure of having some kind of number out there that I'm going to hit, because what happens if I take a month and I read nothing but Omnis? That's really going to cut in on my...
Yeah, but you can always change it. I mean, see, I don't like stick hard and fast to that. I'm like, that's what I want to do, and I'm going to try to hit it, but I like Matthew said 400 pages. No, 400 books, not pages. Another person said some people cheat by reading an Omni and then adding all the separate paperbacks. See, I don't do that. I'm real weird about Goodreads. Like, if I read something, it's in that format. Like, if it's an Omni, I'm putting an Omni in there.
Yeah.
If it's a paperback, I'm putting the paperback. If it's a single issue, I'm putting the single issue. Like, which I don't read a lot of, so but I can't do it that way. Which is cool though with Goodreads, because they do this end of the year like retrospective thing, and you can see like the longest book you read and the shortest book you read, and they'll show you all that information, and there's a lot of data, and it's fun if you're a nerd. Like me.
Yeah, I just don't want the pressure of having a goal. I want to read what I want to read when I want to read it, and I don't have any specific ideas of what I'm going to read next. I usually just go through my collection and say that looks good and pull it out. So I don't have goals, but I do have a goal of scanning in like 3 shelves worth of books into Goodreads that I haven't done recently. I've got a ton of books that I've read and I just have not run them in.
See, I've gotten to the habit the past, again, few years I've been reading or using Goodreads, probably 5+ years, where I can't, like, if I open a book, if I sit down to read this, I'm never going to read this again, but if I sit down to read this, I open it up, I'm taking out my Goodreads app, I'm putting it on my currently reading shelf, I'm putting my phone down, I'm reading it. Well, the moment I'm done, I'm saying, yo, I'm done, and I'm reading it. And then I never forget what I've read because it's all right there.
Yeah, that is good. That is a good idea. I am going to get better about scanning in stuff that I own and what I've read. That'll be a good project for me this year.
That's a good goal for you.
There's a goal.
You have some goals.
Yeah, there's that goal.
Yeah.
So I actually got to get going. So OmniCat, what's the story on Fangirls Assemble?
Next weekend, we're back. We're going to talk about recent reads. We were off for a little bit for holidays.
Uh-huh.
So we've read some stuff, and we're going to talk about it. It's going to be great.
Cool.
So next Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. If that changes, check out at Fangirls Live on Twitter, and we update you there. We're also on Instagram at Fangirls Assemble. And you can see me on Instagram. I'm going to get better at it for my own account, which is at The Comic Slayer. So check that out.
The Comic Slayer.
Comic Slayer.
Nice. You can find me, OmniDog, on this channel, OmniDog's Vault, and on Instagram, OmniDogs_Vault, where Brian Michael Bendis liked a post of mine on Instagram. So I was pretty happy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And tomorrow, Sunday at noon, is the Omnis at the Omni Bros Live channel, where we will be talking about best books, best favorite writer, things like that. We got a whole list of stuff we're going to be covering. There will be all 6 of us on there, which is rare, but we're all going to be on there tomorrow. And then Monday, we have Hall's previews and reads. And also tomorrow, after the Omnis, I'm going to be talking to Tyler Blunt on the air about these books. Mighty Morphin Powers Rangers. I read the first 2. I sure did. And I liked them. I was surprised. So that's my schedule. And
awesome.
We're very happy to have you here. Thank you to the chat, and thank you to anybody viewing. Thank you to my co-host, OmniCat. I really appreciate your being here on Saturday at 3 p.m. That's awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, and we will see you guys the next time that we see you guys. Peace and love. Peace and love.